So we're looking at the vocabulary in Unit 19. First word is aiskunamai. It's one of these deponents in which there is no aorist. Okay, has a contract feature, aiskunumai. There is no aorist middle. The aorist passive functions as its aorist. So aiskunthain, it's what the book calls a passive deponent. Okay, so aiskunthain doesn't mean to be ashamed. It's not passive in meaning, it's aorist. And the form of the future aiskumai is given in the vocabulary notes, but it means to be ashamed or to feel shame before. An important feature of this culture, expression of shame. Okay. Next word is apolume, a compound of an older verb allume with apa. Okay, has a contract feature apollo, and then it has two aorists. One, the first aorist, apolesa, that takes a direct object, and another apolame, that's in second aorist and middle, and that is intransitive. Then there are two perfects, apololeka, which is transitive, and apolola, which is intransitive. So what does this word mean? When it's transitive, it means kill or lose. When it's middle, and it's intransitive, it means, sorry about the blackout there. What we were talking about is that this verb's principal parts have double forms for apparently the same function, but they divide them up into transitive and intransitive uses, and the transitive use is kill or lose, okay, and the intransitive use is die or cease to exist, as the book puts it. Die is enough. Okay, perish is another translation of it. And then we get the weirdest thing of all, a verb that has no first principal part. It did have one once, but it's been eliminated from classical Greek, so we don't get it listed. So it's the verb whose feature is areisomai, whose aorist is a second aorist, eiramain, and then it has they also give you the verb derived from it, again, without a present, anereisomai and aneiramain, both of which mean ask. So this is an old root verb whose present form has essentially disappeared from the language. The next verb is heurisko, which means to find or discover. The perfect of it is a famous thing. Notice that the book gives us the aorist as heuron with an eta, and the perfect as heureka with an eta upsilon. The perfect middle is heuremai, and the aorist passive is heurethein with an eta. In almost every manuscript of Greek that we have, whenever you have heu, you also see a form with an epsilon. So it's not totally clear that the Greeks ever said heu. They probably all got simplified to heu. So, I learned the principal parts of this verb as heurisko, heuresu, heuron with an epsilon. Heureka is what Archimedes said when he discovered his principle. In other words, this guy was the English word.
Eureka.
Yeah, not Eureka, but Eureka. So the Zionians he didn't have an H, I guess. Okay, so that's a cool word to know. Heos is one of the two words for as long as, or while, or until, the other being mekri, syntax we talked about. There's the contract verb hegeomai, epsilon contract, whose feature is hegesamai, aorist hegesamein. No perfect, because it's perfect middle, because it's already middle. And then no perfect active, because it's already middle, and then the perfect hegemai and hegethein, the aorist passive, which is relatively rare. It tells you that it means two things. Lead the way. I don't know where the way comes from, but it means lead, or I guess maybe lead the way, or be a commander or rule. Okay, the English word hegemony comes from a Greek word derived from it. Hegemai gives you a noun hegemon, which means a leader or a ruler. So hegemony is hegemonia, comes from this, and so it has to do with leading and ruling. And in the sense of leading or being in charge, it governs a genitive direct object, like archo when it means rule or command. But this verb also means believe, or think. Just think is fine, okay? And like namidzo, it's not clear how come these verbs get the meaning think. Okay? The book has an explanation that's more like finessing it, but let's be straight about it. There's one explanation that comes close to making sense that I know of, but just doesn't really cut it. So anyhow, if anybody has any ideas, it would be interesting. Next we got the adjective isos, ise, ison, nothing remarkable about its form. It means equal, fair, or flat, okay? It says. It means flat in the sense of something that something that's level without bumps in it, okay? And in that sense, it's been equaled out or leveled out, okay? It doesn't necessarily. You also use it for. There's a place. It has another funny wrinkle to it. So you can say everybody got a share that's isos, and it doesn't mean they got the same size share. So it means their fair share as opposed to an equal share. I think we have equal is mathematically exact, but fair is more like what isos means. Okay, the share that's appropriate to them. So isonomia is a Greek political term, means people having equal or fair ability to govern themselves. Okay, doesn't mean everyone has the same right to govern themselves. Okay, kainos, kaine, kainon is a word that means strange or new in a scary way. Okay, neos can be scary, but it's not marked as such. Okay, so new in a creepy way. All right, then there's the noun kerdos, another third declension neuter noun that's not a second declension masculine ones. Kerdos, kerdous, ta means profit. It's a bad word for Greeks. It's associated with commerce and money, gain, filthy lucre. It's that Greek has negative associations with words that have to do with making money out of what you do. All right. The next word is this great verb krino. Gives you the principal parts. Again, this is a verb whose stem ends with a nu, so you're going to have funny things happening with it. You got a contract future krino. You have an sa aorist without an s, ekrina, because ekrinsa becomes ekrinsa with a becomes ekrina. The s disappears and the I is already long. You've got kekrika, kekrimai. There, the root, and ekrithane has no nu. The nu is an artifact of the imperfective aspect. It shouldn't even be in the aorist. But you can see that form in crisis, for example, which comes from this root. And it tells you that it means separate, decide, or judge. And I think you can understand that combination of things if you think that what it really means is to discriminate between things. Okay? So if you can separate things, you can distinguish them, and therefore you can judge them. But it can also just mean separate out two groups without the judging part. So that's an important part of its function. Then there's the most important compound of this is apokrinomai, a deponent verb that means respond to. There's also hupokrinomai, which gives us hypocrisy, and another hypokrites, which means an actor in the theater. Yeah, that's an important thing. Anyhow, more about that some other time. There's also the noun krites, which just means a person who judges, or a person who distinguishes things, who's a judge. So they're giving you that as well. There's the noun lupes, which we had way back at the beginning in a reading exercise. That means pain, physical pain, and mental pain. I think it means both. So it's grief or pain. We talked about mekri. It's has the same meaning as heos, and there isn't any discernible difference between them. Then we get nosos, nosu, he, a noun of the second declension that looks masculine but is feminine, right? We also have nesos, that's feminine, and hados. This is nosos, and it means sickness or disease. the ultimate nosos for Greeks, well, there are lots of them, but when Greeks think of sickness or disease, they think of malaria.
Yuck.
When we think of it, what do we think of? Cancer, right? Okay, next one is oida, which we spent a lot of time on the forms of it. It gives you the future of it, which we didn't even talk about at all, which is asomai, because it's a regular future. Notice that it's a middle future, okay? But one thing that it does teach you is the compound verb sunoida, which it tells you governs a dative, but it governs a dative of the reflexive pronoun. Okay, so in the vocabulary notes, they give you the standard sentence with sonoida, which is sonoida emo te tein pollen so sase. So this verb means to be aware of, and it governs an object, a reflexive object in the dative case. This is a woman speaking, I am aware of myself, and then it takes a supplementary participle. I am aware of myself saving the city-state. Okay? A very strange kind of expression, but a really typically Greek one. Right? I know that I saved the city-state, is what you're saying. Right? They put the adjective oligos, olige, oligon, in the vocabulary, which means little or few in the plural. But then we had the comparative and the superlative, elaton and elachistos. We talked about prin with the infinitive that means before, or with the indicative, or with on the subjunctive that means until. There's proteros and husteros, adjectives that mean respectively former and superior or before. That's proteros, and hustros, which means later. They give you the adverb from each, proteron, before, early, and husteron is later, the adverb. And then there's the superlative of husteros. There isn't a superlative of proteros. Well, there is, I guess. That's protos, but the superlative of husteros is last. The superlative of proteros is protos, which is first, right? I guess. Chronos, the word for time, okay? So that's the vocabulary in this lesson. Chronos. Yeah,
that is a kai.
Chronos. That is a kai, yes. And there's also another word for time, which is kairos, which means a particular time, a moment in time, a critical time, right? Whereas chronos is an abstraction, relatively speaking. Okay.